countdown, we have Bison Dele. Bison Dele, formerly known as Brian Williams, was an NBA player who played center for Orlando Magic, Denver Nuggets, LA Clippers, Chicago Bulls, and Detroit Pistons. In 1997, he won the NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls. He retired early and went around traveling the world and sailing around. In 2002, he headed out on a ship with his girlfriend and older brother. Sadly, none of them would ever make it back. The captain, Dele, and his girlfriend disappeared and were never seen again. 2 weeks later, the boat was found in Tahiti. The only passenger was Dele's brother, Miles, who was dead. He had overdosed on insulin and slipped into a coma. So what happened on that ship? Well, there's no way we could possibly know, but police believe that Miles killed everyone on board, dumped their bodies into the ocean before overdosing. But this has never been confirmed. But before I go any further, I would just like to let you all know that I have been binge watching crime documentaries on the streaming service Magellan TV. I've talked about them before, but Magellan TV is a membership streaming service founded by filmmakers that work closely with a team of producers and curators to make premium content that is always informative and takes the audience on a journey deep into the documentary's content. They have over 3,000 titles to choose from, so honestly, they have something for everyone. I just finished watching Deadly Dates, a show about the dark side of online dating, and now I'm currently binge watching Psychic Investigators. It's a series about real crimes that were solved with the help of the paranormal and psychic powers. Guys, it's so good. But if you're not into true crime, they got documentaries about history, science, nature, space, and much more. And they add new programs on a weekly basis, so you'll never get bored or run out of things to watch. If you're interested, Magellan is currently offering a buy one get one free gift card. So basically, you purchase a gift card for someone else and they'll give you an additional month of Magellan TV for free. Sounds like a win-win for me. Not only that, check the link in the description box for a 1-month free trial with Magellan TV. It's my gift to you, like an early Christmas present. The best part, the shows are available in 4K without any additional fees, and no ads or commercials. So there you go. Click the link in the description and be done with your holiday shopping. Moving on to number 9, we have Jim Sullivan. Jim Sullivan was a 35-year-old musician that disappeared on a solo road trip in 1975. He left Los Angeles and planned to go to Nashville in search of more work. It was said that he checked into La Mez Hotel in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, but he never even slept there. The next day, he was spotted at a remote ranch. There, his car was found abandoned, containing money, his guitar, and clothes. He was last seen walking away from the ranch. That's the last time anyone ever saw Jim. Now, a day before he went missing, he called his wife, Barbara, and told her that he was alright. But Barbara was like, okay, yeah, I knew you were fine, so why are you calling? He responded with, "You wouldn't believe if I told you." She then said, "Jim, what's the matter? Is anything wrong?" And he said, "Forget it. Just forget I said anything. I'll call you from Nashville." So that's kind of a weird conversation, especially when the next day he went missing. So what was it that happened to Jim? Now, some believe that Jim was abducted by aliens or managed to make contact with them. I know it sounds crazy, but in 1969 he released an album titled UFO, so people believe maybe he was really into aliens and tried searching for them. Others believe he just wandered off on foot and got lost and then succumbed to the elements. Moving on to number 8, we have Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn was an American actor and photojournalist. He was probably best known for his coverage on the Vietnam War. He grew up following in his dad's, Errol Flynn's, footsteps by becoming an actor, but later changed professions and started working for Time magazine. In April of 1970, Flynn was sent to Cambodia on an assignment for Time magazine. However, while there, he disappeared, never to be heard from again. It's believed that Flynn and his colleague were kidnapped, held captive, and then executed. But no evidence was found showing that they were actually murdered. In March of 2010, remains were discovered and they were believed to belong to Flynn, but upon DNA testing, they discovered that this was not the case, meaning we might never know what really happened to him. In our 7th spot, we have Rico Harris. Rico Harris was a well-known basketball player for the Harlem Globetrotters. Sadly, his dependence on alcohol really got to him and he was forced to stop playing and to get a different job. Sadly, that didn't work out for him either, as he was later fired for drunkenness. After this, in 2014, he planned to live in Seattle with his long-distance girlfriend that lived there. So he had just visited his mom in LA and then headed to go see his girl in Seattle. Sadly, he would never make it. His car was later found abandoned at the side of the road in Sacramento. The car was out of gas and had a nearly dead battery. In his car was his backpack and his phone with a video of him from that night. Harris, however, was nowhere to be found. Now, days after his disappearance, people did say that they saw a giant person walking along State Route 16, which could have been Harris since he was 6'9". So it could be that his car broke down during the drive and he left on foot to go try and find help. But we don't know what happened after that. Moving on to number 6, we have Scott Smith. Scott Smith was a Canadian musician and bassist for the rock band Loverboy. In November of 2000, Smith and some of his friends went on a little sailing trip from Vancouver to Mexico. Sadly, while on his trip, a large wave swept him off of his boat. He was never seen again. Despite a number of searches conducted by US Coast Guards, his body has never been found, which they found to be quite odd. Did a rogue wave really sweep him out to sea? Or did something more sinister happen? We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Joe Pitchler. Joe Pitchler was an American child actor known for being in movies such as Beethoven, The Fan, and Children on Their Birthdays. On January 5th, 2006, he went missing and hasn't been found since. On that day, he made a call to his friend at 4:15 p.m. That was the last time anyone has ever heard from him. On January 9th, his car was found near an intersection. All of his personal belongings were left in his car, except his wallet and car keys. Police found his apartment unlocked and his lights left on, which was very unusual of him. What's frustrating is that there is hardly any evidence in this case. Police really don't know what happened to Joe. Even with search dogs, they couldn't make much sense of his disappearance. So honestly, we probably will never know what happened. Moving on to number 4, we have Lord Lucan. This story is pretty crazy, so just brace yourself. Lord Lucan, or Richard John Bingham, was a very wealthy aristocrat and prominent member of the London social scene, mainly as a gambler. In 1974, he ended up killing his wife Veronica after she divorced him and got custody of the kids. The only problem being, he killed the wrong woman. I know, how could you mess that up? But apparently the room was dark and he thought it was his ex. But no, turns out it was the nanny. Anyways, after this happened, he basically fled to avoid being arrested and charged with murder. And it worked, because he was never found. But rumor has it that he ended up drowning himself from guilt over what he had done, and that his body is at the bottom of the New Haven harbor. In our 3rd spot, we have Michael Rockefeller. Michael Clark Rockefeller was the 5th child of the 41st Vice President of the United States, Nelson Rockefeller. The fact that he was a Rockefeller made his disappearance that more bigger. People were shocked when he disappeared. In 1961, Michael was out boating when his boat overturned, and apparently he swam to shore to look for help. But that's the last we know of what happened to him. But it's believed that he was captured by members of a local tribe that killed and dismembered him. It's incredibly gruesome. Coming in at number 2, we have Harold Holt. Imagine a huge world leader goes missing, like Trump or Biden. That would have the whole country shook. Well, that's what happened to Australia. Harold Holt was the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. In December of 1967, the Prime Minister went out swimming at a deserted beach in Victoria, but he never made it back to shore. Apparently, the weather had been very bad that day. The waves were very high. When Holt went missing, the government felt ashamed. Like, how could they let that happen to their leader? Although his body was never found, in 2005, it was declared he had drowned. But of course, you got a handful of people that don't think this is the case and think something else happened to him. And in our number 1 spot, we have Patrick McDermott. Patrick McDermott is probably best known for being the boyfriend of Grease star Olivia Newton-John. He was also a cameraman, and that's how the two originally met. It was on a set of a commercial he was shooting. Anyways, McDermott disappeared in 2005 after setting off for a fishing trip. He was meant to return the next day, but when he didn't, the US Coast Guards were called in to help. The boat was found with all his personal belongings on it. Ultimately, they concluded that he had fallen off of his boat. But there's a huge belief that he actually faked his own death. He did this in order to avoid the debt he was in. It gets even stranger when apparently a private investigator spotted a man in Mexico matching a very similar description to Patrick. So maybe that's where he's been hiding out for all of these years. But still, this hasn't been confirmed.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Dor Bahadur Bista. Dor was a very well-respected anthropologist from Nepal. He was best known for his work with the Takali traders and also for his time as a professor at a university in Nepal. While he was known to go trekking off into the wilderness in order to conduct his research in private, he was, after all, an anthropologist, so he certainly couldn't go totally off the map where there were no other humans at all. In 1995, Dor had published a book and was feeling a little anxious about some of the negative reviews it was getting. Dor was no stranger to criticism or enemies, as many people did not like him due to the fact that he was trying to help empower people who were in a lower class. Before his disappearance, Dor told one of his friends that he was fearing for his safety and that he was considering leaving in order to ensure that nothing bad happened to him. A few weeks after this conversation, somebody saw him boarding a bus, and this was the last time anyone has seen or heard from him. It's obviously very tough to say what happened to him for sure. He had a wife and children who he left behind, and part of me hopes he didn't abandon them, but part of me also hopes he didn't meet some kind of cruel end. I hope that one day someone can figure out what happened and where he went so that his children can be offered some kind of closure. In our number 9 spot today, we have Boris Weisweiler. Boris Weisweiler was a Soviet-born mathematician who was living in Pennsylvania. One winter in 1985, he decided to take a nice little trip to southern Chile to do some hiking and escape the bitter cold. Unfortunately, this is where he ended up disappearing. The last time anyone saw or heard from Boris was in January of that year, and not too long after his last sighting, his backpack was found by a river. This discovery had many people speculating that he may have drowned while trying to cross the river, which is just terrible, but since the body has never been found, there are of course people out there who speculate further. Some people out there believe that Boris may have been abducted. Apparently in 2000, there was enough evidence of a kidnapping that 8 different people were actually arrested and charged with the crime. In the end, however, the case was closed due to the statute of limitations, which seems like that shouldn't have been a factor, but I guess it was. This is just one unsolved mystery that I hope one day we find the answers to. In a number 8 spot today, we have Ernest Preisner. Ernest Preisner was a biologist who was particularly interested in studying pheromones, even more specifically the pheromones of clearwings. His research and studies actually led to the discovery of several new species, and he was able to synthetically create a set of 21 pheromones which was able to attract almost all types of winged bugs. Honestly, I didn't know that this was something that people dedicated their lives to, but it sounds very complicated and kinda cool. In July of 1994, Ernest was collaborating on some research, and he went out to check one of the insect traps that was in the mountains of Garmisch-Partenkirchen, but unfortunately, he never made it back. Search parties were sent out, but no one was ever able to find him, and since he had gone alone, it's not like there was anybody who could testify as to what happened to him. Ernest is sadly still missing today, and I truly hope that one day we find out what happened to him on that day. In our number 7 spot today, we have Natalie Christopher. In August of 2019, an astrophysicist by the name of Natalie Christopher went missing after going out for a run during her visit to a Greek island. Her partner was on the trip with her, and when he awoke one morning, Natalie wasn't in the room anymore. He called her and she stated she was out for a run, which of course is totally normal, but when she didn't return for several hours after, alarm bells definitely began to ring. After contacting authorities, searches began to take place immediately, hoping to find Natalie and bring her home safe. A few days after her disappearance, authorities explained that her cell phone had been switched off. After police, fire, pedestrian, and helicopter searches, Natalie's body was eventually found. She was found in a ravine that was in a rough mountainous area approximately 20 meters deep in the water. After a full inspection of the site and an autopsy, her injuries were consistent with a fall in which she had suffered a head trauma. This is obviously a very tragic ending to this story, but I am at least glad that her loved ones were able to receive receive some kind of closure for this terrible situation. In our number 6 spot today we have Pangjiamu. The Lochner Desert is known for its aggressive landscape. It has soft riverbeds and sand dunes that are known to shift. It's definitely not uncommon for an entire hillside to collapse, burying everything underneath it. This brings us to June 17, 1980, when Pangjiamu, who was a biologist at the Shanghai Institute of Biochemistry and Cell Biology, and some of his colleagues were on an expedition in this desert. That morning, Peng noticed that they were running short on some supplies. He left a note stating that he was heading out to look for water, and he left, but he was never seen again. There was a huge search for him that involved soldiers, helicopters, police, and their dogs, but unfortunately neither Peng or his body have ever been found. Many people believe that he may have been the victim of one of those hillside collapses, but in all honesty, it could have been anything. Other expeditions have come across bodies in this desert, none of which have been Peng so far, but I hope that one day someone is able to find him. In our number 5 spot today we have Timothy Cunningham. Timothy Cunningham was a Harvard-educated epidemiologist who worked for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention before his disappearance in February of 2018. He was 35 years old at the time and was working on tackling both the Ebola and Zika outbreaks. On February 7th, he resigned from a special deployment team that he was working with. His boss explained that he would have tried to convince him to stay for a few more months, but that Timothy just seemed too ready to move on. Timothy left work on February 12th saying that he was feeling unwell, but a coworker has since explained that this was shortly after Timothy learned that he was being passed over for a promotion. The day before his disappearance, Timothy told his neighbors that they should erase his phone number from their phones. Searches for Timothy went on for almost 2 months, and during this time authorities found 4 separate bodies that did not end up being Timothy's. Eventually though, Timothy's body was found in a river and it was confirmed that he had drowned. After more investigation, it was determined that Timothy had unfortunately taken his own life. People who knew Timothy began to recount some of the struggles he had that could have led to this extremely tragic situation, but I also think it's worth mentioning that there are many people out there who believe some sort of foul play was actually involved and that it may have had to do with his line of work. It is a very sad ending to an already sad story, and I hope Timothy's family has been able to support each other during these undoubtedly difficult years. In our number 4 spot today we have Percy Fawcett. Percy Fawcett set out in 1925 to search the Amazon jungle for what had yet to be discovered. As an archaeologist and geologist, he was looking for an ancient lost civilization called the Lost City of Z. Percy went on this adventure with his oldest son Jack, one of Jack's friends, and a couple dogs. Unfortunately, after entering the jungle, none of them were ever seen again. No trace was left and no one has been able to find his body, despite it being almost a full century since he disappeared. Some people believe he may have been lost, perhaps he was injured, maybe he even had some kind of fatal animal encounter, but there are some people who believe he just decided to abandon his life to live a life in the jungle. At the end of the day, his lost city of Z kind of did end up existing, as archaeologists have discovered large stone cities that were hidden in the jungle pretty close to where Percy would have disappeared. It has also happened that many people who went on expeditions in this jungle did not end up making it out, so it's probably best to just stay away from that one. In our number 3 spot today we have Suzanne Eaton. In 2019, an American biologist named Suzanne Eaton disappeared while she was in Greece. Suzanne was a scientist and professor at the Max Planck Institute of Molecular Cell Biology and Genetics in Dresden, Germany, but was in Greece at the time of her disappearance for a conference. On July 2nd of 2019, she was last seen playing the piano in the lobby of her hotel before it was believed she went out on a run, which is the last time she was spotted. It was believed for a while that she may have fallen and injured herself or something of that nature. Of course, authorities began a massive search and it took about a week for them to find anything. On July 8th of that year, Suzanne's body was found in an older World War II bunker and she unfortunately had been killed. This of course turned the search party into an investigation which led to a 27-year-old Greek man who did end up confessing to this very terrible crime. In October of 2020, he was tried and found guilty, which then led to him being given a life sentence in prison. Since this terrible day, the Institute of Molecular Biotechnology in Austria has started a memorial fund in Suzanne's honor, which is aimed to support young scientists' endeavors in interdisciplinary topics. I truly think that this is a wonderful way to remember for Suzanne. In our number 2 spot today we have Vladimir Alexandrov. A Soviet physicist by the name of Vladimir Alexandrov made quite a name for himself when he came up with the mathematical model for nuclear winter. Nuclear winter is what is hypothesized will happen after large-scale nuclear war and firestorms, and it is the long and severe cooling effect that will happen to our global climate. So yeah, he's an important guy and the concept is just absolutely terrifying. So that's a little bit about Vladimir, and in 1985 he was apparently visiting Madrid when he just up and vanished. No one really knows what happened to him, but there are a couple theories. The first being that since he was in Madrid he might have chosen to abandon his country, which is why he was never heard from again. The second, crazier theory is that there are people who believe that the whole nuclear winter thing might have just been heavily promoted by Russia in order to convince people in the United States to protest against America and the nuclear weapons program. This theory ends with the KGB kidnapping Vladimir because he was going to expose the nuclear winter theory as being untrue, and they wanted to stop that from happening. I feel like they could have found a guy who actually believed in the theory to say he came up with this mathematical model for it, but hey, I'm not a scientist. Unfortunately, it is likely we may never know what exactly happened to him, unless Vladimir himself ends up finding a way to let us know. In our number 1 spot today we have Ettore Majorana. Ettore was an Italian physicist who was born on August 5th, 1906 and disappeared on March 25th, 1938 under some pretty mysterious circumstances. Ettore was very gifted with math from a young age, and when it was time for him to attend university he studied engineering first before making the switch to physics. In 1933 he went to Germany and worked on the theory of the nucleus. In the fall of that same year he returned home to Italy, but he was very sick. While in Germany he developed acute gastritis and was also suffering from nervous exhaustion. He was immediately receiving medical treatment, which included being put on a very strict diet. This whole situation led him to become very isolated, and his reclusive nature only grew and grew over the years. For almost full 4 years he shut himself off completely from friends and wasn't even publishing works. In March of 1938 he boarded a boat from Palermo and was headed to Naples, but he was never seen again. Before he headed to Palermo, he apparently withdrew all of his money from his bank account, and it was said that he had traveled there in the first place to visit a friend, but that friend was actually in California at the time. On the day that he disappeared, he also sent a letter to his boss that was basically just him quitting his job. And he also sent telegrams canceling any other plans that he had made. Some people believe that he may have taken his own life, others believe he escaped to Venezuela or Argentina, some people believe that he was kidnapped, and honestly the list just goes on. I wonder if we will ever be able to find out what truly happened to him that day. Starting off this list at number 10 we have Kenny Beach. His real name is Kenneth Lee Veach, and he was an American YouTuber who posted videos of his hiking trips. He only ended up uploading 5 videos in total, but interacted a lot with other hiking channels, which helped him quickly gain popularity. Kenny was very proud of the toll his amazing and difficult hikes took on his body. He even said it took him 3 days to recover from his hikes usually, and that sometimes his toenails would even turn black and fall off. Near the end of 2014, Kenny posted a comment on a video that explained that while he normally enters every single cave he finds, when he found one that was shaped like an M and began to enter it, his whole body began to vibrate, and the closer he got, the feeling became more intense. The feeling really freaked him out, so he ended up getting out of there as quickly as possible. After this comment, tons of other users encouraged him to try and find the cave again and fight the eerie feeling and go inside, and to make a video of it. Kenny did exactly this and made a video that ended up being his most viewed video, titled M Cave Hike. Unfortunately, he was unable to find the same cave again. Viewers were upset that he was unable to find it, and they quickly started pushing for him to look again, but there were a few comments begging Kenny to leave it alone and not to go back, fearing that he would be putting himself in a dangerous situation. On November 10th, 2014, Kenny set out once again to try and find the cave and explained to his family that he would just be going on a short overnight trip. Unfortunately, Kenny never returned home and the search began. His cell phone was discovered at the opening of an abandoned mine shaft, which many viewers thought they recognized from his M Cave hike video. Unfortunately, since then the trail has gone cold and Kenny still has yet to be located. While it is extremely unlikely, I really hope that he is still out there somewhere, and hopefully one day we get the answers we're looking for and his family will get their much needed closure. Moving on, in our number 9 spot we have the YouTube user Bill Smith. Bill Smith was part of the QAnon movement and posted a lot of videos that he claimed were secrets that the government doesn't want us to know about. He was an extremely frequent poster, so it raised alarm bells when he just all of a sudden stopped posting videos. He never gave any indication that he wanted to stop posting videos, and his last video honestly made it seem like he had every intention to continue, with him saying he will fight with everything he has and that he was all in. There are a lot of theories about where he could have gone that include him being investigated by Homeland Security, or if there were any truth to his claims, potentially being taken into custody. People also believe that if his channel did become active again, that it would be the government covering their tracks and uploading on his behalf. It's a lot of speculation, but at the end of the day, who is Bill Smith and where did he go? Moving on to number 8, we have the user Paranormal Lana, who also was known by the name Alana G. She was a pretty popular YouTuber with over 50,000 subscribers and mostly covered content that was either paranormal, spooky in some way, or real events. On September 3rd, 2015, her channel was just suddenly deleted, as well as all of her social media accounts. This quickly became a huge topic of conversation among other YouTubers who were in the same genre as Alana. One person began to point out that just prior to her disappearance from the internet, she had posted a series of tweets explaining that she had a pretty serious stalker incident, and she was having to change how her social medias were being managed. Although many cyber sleuths have looked into where she could have gone, no one is exactly certain of what happened to her. If she really did have a stalker, maybe disappearing was the only thing she could do. I just hope that she is safe wherever she ended up. Moving on down to number 7, we have Shima Luan. Shima Luan was an American YouTuber who worked for the channel Super Planet Dolan. It was an animated channel, and Shima was one of the most active characters on the channel and was well liked by those who watched. In 2016, in a video called The Future of Planet Dolan, they explained that Shima had suddenly fallen out of contact with the other people on the channel, but the last time they spoke, she was safe, so they didn't suspect anything bad. Of course, a lot of viewers didn't believe this and began to speculate that this was the crew trying to cover up her disappearance. In February of this year, a YouTuber called Scarce Theater made a video taking a look into Shima's disappearance, and one of the members of the Dolan crew left a comment that may have cleared some things up for us. The comment read, "It's sort of an unsolvable mystery to those who don't know her, because to solve it in a satisfying way publicly, we'd have to invade the actress who played Shima's personal life on a public level. No one who walks away from a job in entertainment wants to be dragged out in the public and shown around. That would be ghoulish. In respect to the privacy of others, all I can say is that this is one of the better videos on the topic. Everyone else fell into trappings of teasing ideas of conspiracy and horror. Truth is, we always had trouble getting folks to separate the cartoons from the actors." This definitely leads us to believe that Shima had her reasons for leaving the channel, but it truly is none of our business. It's easy to forget that some of our favorite creators are also real people who deserve to have their lives kept private, if they so choose. While we miss Shima's content, it's good to know that she is safe. Coming in at number 6, we have the YouTubers who went by Mac Adventures. They were a father and son channel with a destination of Area 51. In 2016, they had posted a video of them finally arriving at the Area 51 border. As they arrive at the border, a couple of agents in full camo gear pull up to them in a truck, get out with guns in their hands, and basically ask them to leave the premises. After the video was posted, they released one more video and then an extended version of their original Area 51 video, and then they went totally silent. All of their social media were blown up with people believing that the Area 51 video was fake, which has led some people to believe that they just decided they didn't want to continue creating content because of the negativity, but that's not what everyone believed. A lot of people believed that maybe they had just gone back to Area 51 and tried to get further into the closed off area than last time and ended up getting arrested, or maybe even worse. After a few years of people speculating and wondering what happened to them, last year there was finally an update. The son of the duo ended up doing a YouTube livestream where it was finally explained that they had just decided to take a break, and it ended up becoming more of a permanent decision than they had originally planned on. While this is sort of an anticlimactic ending, it's definitely the best outcome that could have happened. At our halfway mark in our number 5 spot, we have the user Kev Jumba, whose real name is Kevin Wu. Kevin was one of the first YouTube stars joining the platform all the way back in 2006, and by 2008 he was the third most subscribed subscribe to channel. Kevin used his YouTube success to go on a season of The Amazing Race, as well as even landing a role in a Hollywood film, Revenge of the Green Dragons. He slowly began to post videos less frequently and eventually made his channel entirely private, moving his focus more to the other aspects of his career. Things took a turn though in 2015 when he kind of just entirely disappeared for a while. People began to get really worried about Kevin, and rumors began to swirl about what could have happened and where he could have gone. Luckily, we eventually heard from Kevin again, but in an unfortunate turn of events, he explained that the reason for his disappearance is because he had been hit by a car and suffered some pretty serious injuries. The accident left him with a broken spine and a collapsed lung, as well as a number of psychological injuries. He has since been focusing on his recovery and credits his dad for really helping nurse him back to health. While it is obviously extremely traumatic and upsetting that he had to go through this near-death experience, we're just glad that he was able to make it through and recover. Continuing on to number 4, we have Spy Kitten TV, who was also known as Dasha. Dasha made a lot of videos about the Illuminati and people that she suspected were members. Her last video was posted in July of 2018, and while all of her social media profiles remain up and active, no one has heard from her or seen a post since. It is possible that she just decided to leave the internet life behind, but it is kind of curious that she didn't leave any sort of farewell. People have speculated that she was exposing too many secrets and ended up being kidnapped or silenced by the Illuminati, while others believe that she met some sort of ill fate in another way. I'm sure those in her personal life know what happened to her, and while I wish someone could give us some sort of update, I suppose it really is none of our business unless they decide they want to share. Hopefully she's out there somewhere, and maybe someday we'll know what happened and where she went. Coming in at number 3, we have Marina Joyce. Marina was a popular makeup and fashion YouTuber and had a large 2.1 million following. People began noticing that something just wasn't right about her behavior in her new videos, feeling like she was more distracted. This led them to believe that she could be scared or in some kind of danger. Eventually people noticed a gun in the background of one of her videos, bruises on her arms, and people said she wasn't blinking as much, and even swore that they heard her whisper, "Help me." In 2019, Marina ended up going missing for 10 days. While she was missing, her boyfriend was tweeting that she was safe, even though the police had an active investigation into her whereabouts, and he tried to shut down any claims that he was acting suspiciously, even though it's super suspicious to say that a missing person is safe when no one knows where they are. After it was confirmed that Marina had been found, she tweeted that she never actually went missing, even though, like I mentioned before, the police were actively looking for her. She claimed that her suspicious boyfriend had been taking care of her. There are a lot of speculations about what happened and why she disappeared for that time, but she claims that she is not in any sort of toxic relationship and just wants her fans to watch her videos and stop worrying. Hopefully she really is okay and fans were just reading into things that weren't actually anything, but it's a super bizarre situation. Continuing on to number 2, we have Kaylee Elise. Kaylee was a true crime YouTuber who covered things like missing people and unsolved crimes. In 2019, we did get a heads up from Kaylee that she would unfortunately be leaving the platform due to some health concerns that she was facing, and in a live stream goodbye, she assured fans that she would keep her videos up for everyone to continue enjoying. This is all fine and well, but people got very concerned a few months later. In December of 2019, her entire channel was deleted. It caused a lot of fans to worry about what happened to her and if her health concerns worsened after she left the channel. Unfortunately, there hasn't been an update this year on what happened or what led to the deletion of her channel, but some people have begun re-uploading her videos so that people can continue to enjoy the content. Wherever she is, I hope she's able to take care of her health concerns and focus on herself. Finishing off this list in our number 1 spot, we have the strange disappearance of Nicholas Sonderegger. Nick was a fairly small but growing YouTuber with 2,000 subscribers and was featured on the YouTube channel Explore With Us. Nick was 28 at the time of his disappearance and was last seen on September 7th, 2018 around 2:30 a.m. He had heard a female screaming outside of his home in Salton Beach, California, and went to investigate. After he failed to return home that night, he was reported missing the next morning. Some of his clothing that he had left in was found by the search parties, but it is still unknown what happened to him or where he could be. It's really upsetting that he obviously went to go and help someone who seemed to be in despair, and it led to trouble for him. It certainly shows his courage and bravery. There's a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to his whereabouts, so if any viewers have information, please contact the Imperial County Sheriff's Office. Someone somewhere has to know something about where he could be, and I hope that one day his family gets answers and closure.